You had a rough time, did you not, with Johnny Carson?
I did.
Because he made fun of you too much?
Today, we are counting down the top 7 celebrities who appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and were never invited back. Nearly 3 decades at the top of late-night television gave Carson power most hosts never see. And behind the scenes, he kept what producer Peter LaSalle confirmed was a real banned guest list with over 30 names on it. Once Carson took a dislike to someone, LaSalle explained, he didn't start liking them later. Watch the video till the end to find out exactly who these guests are. Number 1, Uri Geller, the psychic who couldn't bend. When Uri Geller walked onto The Tonight Show, set in August 1973, the Israeli-born illusionist had no idea he was walking into a trap. Geller had built his reputation claiming to possess genuine psychic powers, and his famous spoon-bending ability had made him a sensation.
He says that he claims to have been born, as I understand it, with the power of having psychokinetic ability, which is the movement of objects by sometimes not touching them, or by the mind. He's been on shows where objects have bent, things have broken just by touching them. Would you welcome, please, Uri Geller.
But Carson was an amateur magician himself and had little patience for entertainers who claimed actual supernatural abilities.
He is really suspicious, you know. I'm having a hard time with you.
I don't mean to be, Uri. I really don't.
Just keep looking.
Before Geller's appearance, Carson consulted with professional magicians who helped him devise a plan. And when Geller arrived on stage, he discovered that Carson had secretly substituted all of his props.
We have some aluminum canisters. These are the type of aluminum canisters I guess a roll of film would come in. All of these objects have been supplied by us. You did not bring anything here at all.
The spoons, the materials, everything Geller needed for his act had been replaced with items he couldn't manipulate, which meant the psychic stunts failed completely on live television.
That's it. Hey, let me rest a minute, all right?
All right.
Geller later admitted he felt destroyed by the experience, though he acknowledged the appearance ironically turned him into a superstar.
I don't want you to feel bad about this tonight. The monologue doesn't work every night either.
Don't feel bad about it. It
Maybe.
happens to me not once, but it happens quite a lot when I cannot perform and do things.
Carson never invited him back. That single Tonight Show appearance in August 1973 marked both the beginning and end of Geller's NBC career, and the host had made his point about fake psychics. Number 2, Orson Welles, A Legend's Deception. Orson Welles, the legendary filmmaker behind Citizen Kane, had been a popular guest and occasional guest host on The Tonight Show throughout the 1960s and 70s, guest hosting several times in 1978 alone. The warm relationship he enjoyed with Carson and the show ended abruptly after one particular hosting stint that year. During the appearance, Welles attempted what he called a mentalist routine, where he tossed ping-pong balls with numbers written on them into the audience, and then tried to add them up in his head and announce the total. The trick seemed impressive, but what Carson didn't know was that Welles had planted 2 associates in the audience to signal him the answers, and when his confederates botched the signals, the math trick failed on air. Carson was furious when he learned about the deception, but not because the trick didn't work. What enraged him was that a magician had used planted audience members on his show, which Carson considered inexcusable and a betrayal of the audience's trust. Orson Welles never appeared on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show again after 1978. One of cinema's greatest directors had been permanently banned over a magic trick gone wrong. Number 3, Wayne Newton, The Vegas Rivalry.
I'm going to say something I've never said on television, Mr. King. Johnny Carson was a mean-spirited human being.
Wayne Newton, known as Mr. Las Vegas, had appeared on The Tonight Show approximately 30 times throughout the 1960s and 70s, and the Vegas entertainer and Carson seemed to have a solid professional relationship. That changed completely in 1980 over a business deal that had nothing to do with television. Both Carson and Newton were bidding to buy the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas, and when Newton's financing prevailed and he won the deal, Carson felt betrayed. The host began making jokes on on his show ridiculing Newton, particularly targeting what Newton called his lack of manhood. And Newton recalled there was no rhyme or reason for the attacks beyond Carson being bent out of shape over losing the casino deal.
You had a rough time, did you not, with Johnny Carson?
I did.
Because he made fun of you too much?
Well, what happened is all of a sudden a whole new brand of humor started to be displayed by him. In that humor, questioning my masculinity.
The situation escalated until Newton decided to confront Carson directly, storming into Carson's office and telling him the jokes needed to stop or there would be physical consequences. The jokes stopped immediately, but so did their friendship and Newton's appearances on the show.
I walked into his office, and he was there with his producer, and whom I had known for a lot of years. And so I said to his producer, "Would you excuse us, please?" I confronted him, and he turned pale, and I told him what my intentions were, and he wouldn't get up, and so I smacked him.
You really hit him?
Yeah.
Wayne Newton was effectively barred from The Tonight Show following the 1980 conflict and never appeared with Carson again, staying away from The Tonight Show for decades afterward. In recent years, Newton has remained a headliner in Vegas, still performing his up-close and personal show at the Flamingo Hotel. But his Tonight Show days ended with that business rivalry. Number 4, Andy Warhol never even got a chance. Andy Warhol holds a unique position on Carson's banned list because he was never actually invited to appear in the first place. The leading pop artist of his generation was effectively blacklisted before he ever set foot in the studio, and a 1966 Look magazine profile captured the moment that sealed his fate. When an interviewer showed Carson something related to Andy Warhol, Carson's response was emphatic and dismissive, saying, quote, "Andy Warhol has no talent, no talent, no talent," before tossing the magazine aside. That public pronouncement in January 1966 meant Warhol was never booked on The Tonight Show throughout Carson's 30-year run. The artist who defined pop art and influenced an entire generation of creators was banned without ever getting the opportunity to appear, all because Carson disliked his work. Number 5, Jerry Lewis. The cue card incident. Jerry Lewis had been a hugely popular comedian and a regular on The Tonight Show, appearing over 80 times by the summer of 1975, either as a guest or guest host. Carson and Lewis admired one another, and their relationship seemed solid. But 1 week of guest hosting changed everything. Lewis arrived for his guest host stint running short on preparation time and demanded extra material be written on cue cards to help him through the show. Don Schiff, Carson's cue card assistant, explained he didn't have enough time to prepare everything Lewis wanted, and Lewis didn't take it well. According to producer Peter Lassley, Lewis blew his stack and became hysterical, verbally mistreating Schiff and berating the crew member over something that wasn't his fault.
Excuse me 1 second. What the hell's he holding up a card telling me to do that, and you're telling me not the hell to do that? I mean, but people are watching me. They don't see you laying there like a Jewish frog on the floor. You want to do this now? Come over here and tell me to do it now. Yes.
Do that.
Yes, of course. I'd be very happy to.
When Carson learned about the outburst and how Lewis had treated his staff member, his response was immediate and final. Lewis would never guest host or appear on the show again, and except for one brief later appearance with a different guest host, Jerry Lewis never returned to Carson's Tonight Show after 1975. Carson had a clear rule about bad manners and absolutely did not tolerate anyone who disrespected his staff and crew, and Lewis had crossed that line with no way back. Lewis passed in August 2017 at age 91, having been banned from Carson's show for over 40 years. Number 6, Steve Allen, the original host, gets banned.
The original Tonight Show came on here at 11:30.
Yes, live. As a matter of fact, at one point we were starting at 11:15 because it had been a local show before it was a network show, and we still had to do 50 minutes of that and then the 90 minutes.
Steve Allen had a special connection to The Tonight Show as the original host from 1954 to 1957, essentially creating the format that Carson inherited and perfected. Carson regularly booked Allen out of respect for his predecessor, and Allen guest hosted roughly 60 times through 1982. But that October, their relationship reached its breaking point.
Just testing the air here.
After Allen's final guest host stint in October 1982, Carson heard two separate complaints that changed everything. Allen had made light of Carson's recent leg injury while on air, and crew members reported that Allen had yelled at them over production changes and become difficult to work with. One crew member even asked never to work with Allen again. Carson told his staff that Allen wouldn't have to worry about working with that crew member again because Allen had been banned from the show. The man who had paved the way for the Tonight Show format was no longer welcome on the program he had created, barred from appearing on Carson's show for the rest of Carson's tenure. Allen only returned as a guest when substitute hosts like Patrick Duffy or Jay Leno were filling in. And he passed in October 2000 at age 78 with the rift never repaired. Number 7, Joan Rivers, The Most Painful Ban.
Usually when we have an author of a book, this is usually the spot in the show in which we have an author. My next guest is an author. Touching and inspiring story called Enter Talking by my next guest, Joan Rivers. Would you welcome Miss Joan Rivers?
Joan Rivers' ban from The Tonight Show might be the most painful story of all because of how high she had risen and how close she had been to Carson.
You don't need big to be feminine. Look at Liberace.
Rivers got her big break on The Tonight Show on February 17, 1965, when Carson called her a star after her first appearance, and over the next 2 decades, she appeared nearly 100 times and became Carson's primary guest host by the early 1980s.
What's your problem?
14 years in this damn show, you never gave me a gift.
Well,
I ain't gonna talk about it. 14 years, I'm hysterical. You never asked me, do I wear red? Go, pull, Sarah.
Despite their professional closeness, their relationship off-air remained formal, and Rivers credited Carson with making her a star, even as she felt frustrated by the mid-1980s that NBC had never given her a long-term contract or her own show. In 1986, Rivers secretly negotiated a deal with Fox to host her own late-night talk show for a reported $10 million, making her the first woman to host a nightly talk show. When news of the deal leaked, Rivers tried to call Carson to apologize and explain she was leaving, but Carson refused to speak with her and both hung up the phone. Carson later claimed he never received the call. An NBC executive noted that anyone who announced a rival show was generally banned from The Tonight Show as soon as they made their intentions known, and Carson treated Rivers' departure as a personal betrayal. He immediately stopped booking her. Rivers never appeared on Carson's Tonight Show again, and when Carson's final episode aired in May 1992, Rivers wasn't invited. She later said being excluded made it feel like she had never been on that show at all, and Carson never addressed the situation publicly, maintaining his silence about their falling out. Rivers was effectively blacklisted for the rest of Carson's career, a span of 26 years, and she eventually returned to The Tonight Show only in 2014 when she made a cameo during Jimmy Fallon's premiere as host, long after Carson had retired. Rivers passed in September 2014 at age 81, having reconciled with the show, but never with Carson himself. Johnny Carson's band guest list reveals a side of the beloved host that viewers rarely saw, and whether it was Uri Geller's fake psychic powers, Orson Welles' deceptive magic trick, Wayne Newton's business rivalry, Andy Warhol's art that Carson despised, Jerry Lewis's mistreatment of staff, Steve Allen's disrespect, or Joan Rivers' perceived betrayal, Carson maintained strict standards for who could appear on his show. Producer Peter Lassily summed it up best when he said Carson didn't like certain people, and once he took a dislike to someone, he didn't start liking them later. The ban list was real with over 30 names on it, and these 7 celebrities represent some of the most notable cases of stars who appeared on The Tonight Show and were never invited back. Carson controlled the most powerful platform in late-night television for 30 years and wasn't afraid to use that power to keep out those who had crossed him, no matter how famous they were.